So, hey YouTube, two guys in the outdoors, Jason,
Bob.
and as Jason teased you last week with his video, he already started making his bow, which I believe is right here,
Yep.
and he's got a little bit of work to do on it. That he's going to teach me how to make my bow, which is right here in this vise. Okay, and we're going over a few things on just how we got started. Okay, there's so much to it to just getting to this point,
Yeah.
right?
Well, kind of, sort of. So let's talk about. So I like to use hickory. Gotta get my phone to quit.
And you can use a variety of different.
Yeah, I mean, like Osage Orange is probably one of the top bow woods, top tier. Elm.
Top price.
You know, you've got, there's a lot of good bow woods out there. I like using hickory for a couple reasons. It is very widely dispersed throughout the eastern United States. You can find hickory just about anywhere, and it is a very, very good bow wood. It's not the top tier, but it's up there in the top.
And when you go back to, the Indians, especially on the East Coast, hickory was one of their woods that they used.
Absolutely.
Okay, it's one of their top woods.
And I think I don't know this for sure, but I think hickory was one of their choices because you can take a green stave. So I can cut down a hickory today, split it, get me a bow stave, and start working it down, making a bow right away. Hickory will not check, crack, which means cracking, splitting. It will not, because the grain and the structure of the wood is so tightly intertwined, and it's not as acceptable to checking, cracking.
The hickory pores is a very close knit, very hard wood, tight knit type wood.
And I think that's why the Native Americans chose it, is because
Plus, it's so widely
it was
developed.
it was out there, and they could make a bow right away, a functional bow. With Osage Orange, Locust, Elm, some of the other top tier bow woods, you've got to cut those staves, paint the ends, like you see the ends is painted on this one because we cut this end off. And that's so it dries slow and it won't check, it won't crack. Hickory, again, don't want to beat a dead horse here, but you can cut a green stave today and start making a bow. So now this stave is probably at least 3 years old, so it's dry. My very first bow that I ever made, I'm a very impatient man. I hunt this way too. I'm a aggressive hunter, so I'm aggressive. So my very first ever bow was hickory, green, and I fire hardened it to dry. And there's an example of one of them that I broke. One of two that I broke. So the reason we're using hickory widely across the eastern United States, it's a bow that you can start working right away. It's not going to crack, check, anything major, anything like that. And it's a very forgiving bow wood. This is your first ever bow, right, Bob?
It's my first bow that I've made. Yes.
So instead of giving him a piece of Osage Orange or Locust, that's a little bit more experience is needed.
And if you guys are interested in doing that, and you go out and buy one of these staves, you go up to Osage, you're talking several $100s
Yeah.
for something that you may break.
That's right. And another thing is we don't have to chase a growth ring. So this is what we call the back of the bow. And I don't know if you all can see, but the reason Bob and I chose this stave is the grain is very straight in this piece. It's the grain is very straight in this piece. It's already got some reflex in it, so it's going to make a very good bow that's already got some potential for. It doesn't have a ton of reflex in it or back set, but it's a good stave.
It's a good beginner stave.
That's right. It's not snaky. It's good and straight. So that's the reason we chose this stave. We measured Bob's draw length. Bob's got a 25-inch draw length. So we're building a 60-inch longbow, self-bow longbow. So what we've done, we've got our stave. This is the back of the bow. So we don't have to chase a growth ring. So all we've done is remove the bark off of this stave. So this back is done. We don't have to do nothing to it. We don't have to chase no growth ring. This bow is ready to go. This is the belly of the bow, and this is the part of the bow, or this is the part of the stave that we're going to be removing using a draw knife. And when Bob's done with it, it's going to look, like mine. Here you see the back of the bow. I got my center line, and then you've got the belly of the bow. This is the side of the bow that we remove material from.
So you can see, turn it sideways, you can see how much material we're going to take off with a variety of tools, draw knives and rasps and different things like that.
Yep. So
we were figuring it out earlier, just to get it to this stage where you can start making it a real bow. Okay, I think you said around 6 to 8 hours.
Yeah, it depends. It can go a little quicker than that. But you want to take your time and not screw up.
Yeah, don't be a Jason.
That's right. I gotta tell myself all the time, slow down. So anyway, we've marked center line of this stave. So that's the center of the bow. So this is going to be where the handle and the riser of the bow is going to be. So Bob and I are going to place this in the vise. And please, if you have questions,
shoot us an email. Put it in the comments. You guys are all real good about putting things in comments. So put it in the comments or shoot us an email at twoguysintheoutdoors@gmail.com.
And we'll answer those questions for you.
Yeah.
So we're gonna stick this. I don't have a bunch of fancy tools. I'm a blacksmith knife maker. I like doing things primitive. So, like I showed you in the teaser, a couple of the hand tools, and that's what we're going to use, and we're going to kind of show you step by step. We can't show you everything, or the video will be a million years long, but we're going to show you steps. So, selecting a stave. So we'll back up. So when I went out into the woods, this tree was probably an 8 to 10 inch live hickory. And I cut that down and I selected sections of that hickory that were straight, didn't have no knots, no limbs or anything like that. And then I split that stave. So that 8 to 10 inch round tree gave me 4 bow staves. It actually gave me more than that because I had a couple sections there that were good and straight.
And he cut this down. I think when you made them, they were probably 72-inch logs,
Yep.
thereabouts. Okay,
Yep.
we cut this down to 60 inches, but we had probably another about that much more that we had cut off. So, and then you had a full tree. So you
Yep.
probably had a couple logs,
I,
and you're able to get a couple straight things.
I think that tree I got 3 sections. So I got 12 bow staves out of that tree until I got into the part that had limbs and knots and all that good stuff. So
And you want that's a key thing. Don't think you can go out and buy or go out and get a small tree or see a small tree that's this big in diameter and thinking you're going to make a bow out of it, because your bow will only be about like an inch in diameter, okay, and you won't get good. So you actually have to at least at a minimum quarter it out on an 8-inch.
yeah,
8-inch tree.
and it knocks down on this crown.
Yeah,
The smaller the tree, the sharper this crown's going to be,
right.
which can give you some difficulty.
But if you think about that, if we had a tree that was this big in diameter, them rings are going circular, right? So the backside of your bow is got some circular grains to it. You don't want the backside of the tree back here.
yeah. So we're going to keep this.
Oh, I know a little bit.
We do.
I read the
We
book.
do. So we're going to keep this as simple as we can. So start out with hickory. So we cut it to 60 inches. We mark the center of our bow stave because this is where our handle and our riser is. And so now Bob and I are going to notch, or we're going to lay down our center line. So the grain on this stave is good and straight. So we're just going to pick the center of this bow stave.
Here.
Yep.
That's good.
And then we're just going to snap this a couple times.
Now,
And now we've got
Jason
our
was
center
telling me
line.
earlier, if you do have one, this one, Jason was very kind to me, okay? And he got the straightest one that he had in the shed, okay? He wasn't mean,
I want him to be successful.
okay? I mean, he had a few of them that were kind of snaky, not super snaky, but a little bit, okay? But we were talking about it earlier, where you can still use that just by, as long as your
Knocking points.
knocking points are in line. It doesn't matter how far it goes out. It probably does a little bit. It's okay if it snakes a little bit and comes back. Okay? So you look at that whole piece and then position the bow. Luckily enough, this one here, this bow did have a slight little cant to one side. But
Very little.
when we cut it down, okay, it basically almost took the whole thing out. And then when we cut the rest down, that cant's gone.
Absolutely.
So
All right, hand me that straight edge there behind you, Bob. So what we did is we snapped using a chalk line. So what we want to do is we want to create a permanent line here. That's not going to rub off. You got to remember a chalk line will wipe off. So we're going to take a pencil and we're just going to work our way down this bow stave, because we're going to talk to you about, you got it? So we're going to talk to you about laying your bow out. Because that's what Bob's homework is going to be tonight. His homework is to lay his bow out, and we'll give you an example. And then the next video that we're going to do, will be, I'll be showing Bob how to use the draw knife correctly, how to start removing material from this stave to get it to this point.
now keep in mind, all these markings that we put on this back side, if you remember what he said at the beginning, okay, just like on his bow, okay, none of this ever goes away. He did not have to redraw any of this because he took material away, because
Taking it off the belly. Yep.
everything comes off of this side right here. So this is the way it's going to look from now on. Okay.
Yep. Yep. So until we get a finished product. All right. So let's show them what this looks like. So Now your center line does not have to go down the center of your stave, but it's important that you kind of stay with the grain. And you can, might be hard to see on the camera, but the grain in this stave runs almost perfectly straight down this bow stave.
Let's just get a little closer. See if you guys can see that. Okay.
So now what Bob's homework is Bob is going to draw onto his bow. Now my bow is 1.5 inches wide. I don't know what Bob's going to make his, probably somewhere close. So what we'll do is we'll measure out from our center line. I think I go about, I think that's about 4.5 inches. I'm going to have or Bob's going to have, and I'm going to have, about an 8-inch to a 9-inch riser.
The riser is the thick part of the bow. Okay.
Yep. Where your hand and your arrow rest is
So
going
it
to be.
starts from here, at the bottom of this curve, up to the bottom of this curve.
Yep.
So from there to there, roughly about 8 inches.
Yep. So now I like to build my bows symmetrical. All right. So from center line, we're going to measure out here 4.5 inches. We'll come up here 4.5 inches. So this bow is going to be symmetrical. So when we get to tillering it, so when Bob gets to the point to where I'm at, and we're going to start tillering.
So what's tillering?
Tillering is, we're jumping ahead.
I know, this is a teaser.
Tillering is when we put this bow, we string this bow with a tillering string, and we start to flex these limbs. And we want to make sure, that I'm in the camera here. So we put a tillering string on here and we start pulling these limbs down. And I've got a tillering
This
rack.
is the first time it looks like a bow.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's actually bending like a bow. And just to make it short and sweet, it's just to make sure it's bending
Equally on both sides.
So
So we'll start to shave off wood, very thin slivers of wood, and I don't want to jump too far ahead. But we're going to shave off until both of these limbs are the same, bend the same.
So the next process for me is to lay this out, and then we get into hogging all this stuff out to a decent dimension here.
Yep.
Okay, just a rough dimension here, and then we get into the fine tuning.
That's right. Now back to the riser and the way I lay my bow out. I recommend anybody starting out to lay their bow out symmetrical. A bow will, in this way, then I can choose top and bottom limb when we get into tillering. So if I make my riser offset like a lot of bow makers do, then that already determines that this is my bottom limb and this is my top limb. All right. So if I got any problems or anything that I got to tweak, I cannot.
You're set.
Yeah, I cannot invert my bow, right? So when you start out bow making, if you make your riser, the center section of your bow, symmetrical, then when we start tillering, and again we're jumping ahead, but I want you to understand why we're laying the bow out the way we are. Mm-hmm. You want the bottom limb to be a little bit stiffer than the top limb, and the reason that is because we're anchoring with our fingers underneath that center line, and so we're putting extra stress on the bottom limb. So we want that bottom limb to be a little bit stiffer. So back to laying it out. lay it out symmetrical. When you start tillering, then you can then decide, okay, this is going to be my top, this is going to be my bottom, because this limb's a little bit stiffer. And also another thing that I do is when you string your bow and you eyeball down it, your string is going to want to favor one side or the other. That's how I determine bottom limb. So I am a right-handed shooter, so I want my string to favor the left side of my bow. That way, when I build my arrow shelf, it's going to be a very small arrow shelf, and I'm going to get a closer to center shot. All right. So
Center meaning the arrow is not offset from the string in the bow. It's not kicked out.
well,
Because the string is here, and then you got the bow.
and it makes a bow that's going to be a lot easier to tune. Right? So if my string is favoring the right side, and I'm a right-handed shooter, when I draw, now my arrow has got to go around the riser, and it's harder to get that bow tuned.
Where by flipping it, like what Jason's saying, now you just put it back to the left side.
Yep.
And
So
make it easy for a right-hand shooter.
and there's some bow makers out there. I am not a professional bow maker by any means.
Well, I want to put a plug in here. So this is just for the beginner. This is to make it almost dummy proof, okay? Because us beginner guys will make mistakes, okay? And if we offset it and we make it to where it's not like what Jason's saying, well, we may just have to scrap that whole stave, that whole bow. So if you're a professional bowyer, we're not talking to you guys.
Yeah, this video is not for you. This video is for people that want to make their own bow, their own shootable bow, their own bow that they can go hunting with. So back to the string. The bow will fail. I don't care what you do. That string will want to favor one side or the other. There's a lot of bow makers out there. They will heat and tweak the limbs. They will take more tiller off of one side of the limb or the other to get that limb to come back around. You know, as long as that string is pretty much center, but it will tend to favor one side or the other. Don't fight that. Let it favor one side or the other and use that to your advantage. And we're going to end that there.
Yeah, and I'm gonna put a plug in here. Okay, keep in mind, Jason got a fairly nice bear this past season with his previous self bow, and Jason's not a kind person when it comes to his bow. Okay, so he's probably beat the crap out of it over the last few years.
It's got marks and scuffs
walking through the woods. Probably used it to grab some things or as a walking stick. So, but where I'm going with this is this method that he's doing here is proven. It's proven with only one bear, okay, one animal, but it was successful.
Yep.
So
it's proven. So
now
anyway,
I got homework that I got to do.
Homework. So the next video, so stay tuned. This was getting long enough. Bob will come back with this very stave. He will have drawn out on here
What I want.
what he wants as far as what he wants his bow to look like, width and all that good stuff. He is going to set it up symmetrical. That way he can make that bow more forgiving and easier to tune. And so our next video, we're going to be showing Bob how to use a draw knife correctly and how to start removing the wood from the belly side of this bow to get it to this point right here.
So you figure, look how much I got to take off.
You got a lot.
There's
to
a
take
lot
off.
to take off.
Yes, it is.
And you will not have to sit there and watch me whining and carrying on of all the work that I got to do.
We'll take some video clips and put them together
Yeah.
from the start until and through till he gets to this point. We'll show you some clips of that. But anyway,
Okay.
thank you for tuning in. Please ask questions because this is self-bow making for beginners.
That's right. So I want to say thank you to everybody. We have more subscribers than we ever thought we would
That's right.
have gotten. So I appreciate every one of you guys sticking through. And David, you said you can't wait to see the next videos. Well, here they come.